Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm back today with our engineer, Mike Herzog. How's it going today?
Doing pretty good, David. Happy to be here again.
All right. Well, it looks like we've got a little bit of warm weather this week, and I think winter returns again in about a week.
It's
So
coming
we're
back.
getting a little reprieve.
It's up and down. We're in the Midwest. It's getting to be that time of year where it's the old joke. If you don't like the weather, wait a day. Because we're about to get in that freeze thaw, rain, snow, wind cycle coming up pretty good here for the next month.
Yeah, it's weird when it rains in the wintertime here and it's not freezing, it's not snow. We've
Mhm.
only had one realistic snow this year. We've had a couple of those tiny ones that really didn't do much, but that's been about it. All right. So I want to talk first about this article out. Researchers are turning nuclear waste into power using innovative batteries that convert radiation into electricity for sensors and deep space tech. So this probably isn't going to be something for our cars, but Bill had posted this article. But so nuclear batteries harness energy from radioactive decay, converting it into electricity. They're ideal for long term maintenance free power generation in extreme environments. They support applications in deep space exploration, oceanic research, medical implants, the Internet of Things, and even nuclear waste management. One approach to energy conversion involves something called the Seebeck effect, which transforms thermal energy from decaying isotopes into electricity. This principle powers radioisotope thermoelectric generators like those used in NASA's deep space
Yeah.
missions. Yeah, so we're not going to see these on planes. We're not going to see these in your
No, I don't
car. You're
think
not
we're
going
gonna
to have them
be
at home.
not like Mr. Fusion, from Back to the Future. I don't think we're gonna
Yeah,
see that, but it's cool. I love that stuff because it's impressive how clever people are. And anytime they see a little bit of energy change or a delta or something, okay, how can we harness that? How can we use it? It's radioactive waste. It's just sitting there being hot, for the next 100 years or 1,000 years or whatever it is. Can we pull some energy off of that?
well, I think it's a cool use of nuclear waste too.
Yeah.
It's a
Mm,
really
sitting
neat
there.
idea. You look at all of the battery research we see because a lot. You and I were talking about this before we went live. I mean, we see the future is going to be electric in cars. Okay, just if nothing else, even if just because of market conditions, even without incentives, are going to make it so that EVs are so inexpensive that people will feel obligated to buy them. We see them making decent EVs and selling them overseas for $10,000 or less. You've got BYD and VinFast both making vehicles for under $10,000 US that are selling well in other markets. And they're not sold in the United States. The VinFast one may come to the US, but I bet it's going to be 20,000, when it hits the US.
Do
And
they have VinFast on the West Coast?
they do. They do. And
Washington
there's a
and
couple models you can buy, and they've got some lease deals that aren't bad. They're like $400 or $500 a month.
Mhm.
They've made arrangements to go do the dealership model. So
Cool.
unlike
Okay.
Tesla, they want to go to the dealership model. And I think they've set up relationships in about 20 plus states, but I haven't heard of any of those dealerships opening outside of California yet. I'm sure we'll see something in that regard soon. But like the VF3, which is their vehicle, looks kind of like a Suzuki Samurai used to do,
Mhm.
is the one that they're selling for 10,000 overseas, and they suspected it would be 20,000 in the US. Now the thing I don't know is if the one they sell overseas meets all the national highway
Highway
traffic
safety.
safety standards. Maybe they'll send some to the University of Nebraska for them to crash
Yeah,
them.
they do really good testing here on all of that
Yeah.
stuff and safety. It'll be curious about that because I mean, there's minimum speed limits on highways, and a lot of these vehicles, top out at 40 or 50. Which, if you're in one of those gigantic Southeast Asian cities that you've never heard the name of, but have 10
Mhm.
million people that live there, like perfect, great. You're never going to go above 40 or 50 anyway. It's just to get you around. So, some of that adoption, I think, there's a tipping point at some place where people get less gun shy about EVs, where it still is, and it's hard to get past it because cars have been such a source of freedom, like Route 66. Like how many of us are actually going to hop on the highway and go Route 66 and travel across 4 or 5 states? It's iconic. It's Americana. It sounds great, but the
Mhm.
reality is like my car doesn't need to do that. In most cases, it needs to go to school, go to work, go to the grocery store, take me out on the weekend, whatever it is. And as more and more people kind of, I think, make that realization in their head, like I don't need that car that's going to be able to, take me 4,000 miles on a road trip across the West. Like I think that's going to be the real tipping point where people say, well, I can get that for $20,000 and meet all my needs and not have to pay for gas anymore. Like, okay, done. Easy decision.
Yeah. Oh, there's no question. And I don't think that VinFast or BYD make any low-speed electric vehicles.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
there's plenty of those. No, those are just
I know
normal
those are the
cars.
ones you see that look, boy, that sure looks like a golf cart with a couple of windows.
No, well, there are some. There are some that are out there. Um, I've told you before, like I'm friends with the CEO of Derrick Automotive, and they've been bringing over low-speed electric pickup trucks that are actually like a mid-size, like a pickup truck, like a Ford Ranger used to be, or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
That size that they seat four,
Mhm.
and they're like $25,000
Wow.
or less, and they assemble them in the U.S., but it's all Chinese components made in a Dodge factory.
Hmm.
Yeah, go
But
figure.
they're low speed.
They're low speed. They have a
Or is
max
it
speed of
like
about
like
50.
a job site truck or like an
Yeah, well,
airport?
it's something for like shuttling things around town,
Huh?
and they only have a range of about 120 miles.
Yeah.
So it's a short range, but you think about it. I mean, how many jobs are you really doing? I mean, you're not going to. It's not a vehicle to tow with, obviously. It's more of a. That one is more of a glorified golf cart, but it does look like in my opinion, it looks like a mid-sized Dodge Ram pickup.
Yeah, which is
Okay,
missing anymore, that style of truck.
yeah. Well, you're seeing them more. They got the Ford Maverick. I think the Maverick's a huge hit for
I think the
Ford,
Maverick,
and
yeah, I like the
you
Maverick.
know, it's rated at 44. The hybrid's rated at like 44 miles per gallon. I know
Wow.
people that own them. They say they get around 36, but still,
Still, that's
that's
great.
pretty
That's
damn
perfect.
impressive for a
Yeah.
pickup truck. You know. But anyways, back to we went off on a tangent. I was trying to say though that the EV revolution has really caused a lot of research into batteries, and so you see a lot of this, and we're going over this um, thing with these batteries using atomic waste. So another method relies on ionization, where the radiation interacts with semiconductors to produce electric currents. Devices designed this way are classified as alpha voltaic, beta voltaic, gamma voltaic, or neutron voltaic, depending
Those
on
are
the
all the
radiation
particle,
type.
yeah. What particles shoot out
Particle.
of the nuclear phase,
Yeah.
alpha, beta, or gamma particles.
Yeah. So the first studies on nuclear batteries dates back to the 1950s, when they were using strontium 90 and achieving a power output of zero point 0.8 microwatts with an efficiency of just 0.4%. Now some of the efficiencies are hovering between 1 and 3%. So they increase that, 5 to 6 fold. But it's just kind of wild to think that they've are getting them. This is kind of funny. A key issue with nuclear voltaic batteries is fuel supply. Tritium, a commonly used isotope, as a global inventory. Oh God, a global inventory of about 20 kilograms, with only a
What?
fraction available for commercial applications. Now I
Did you say
remember
20 kilograms?
20 kilograms, talking 44 pounds.
It's a shoebox. There's a shoebox of it in the world.
I remember that one of my handguns has tritium sights on it,
Mhm.
and I think it's just like a little dot, but it glows in the dark. I mean, it's tiny. I think it's just
Yeah, yeah.
a speck. I can't imagine what that must, if it's really truly tritium, what it must cost.
Uh,
Because I know tritium is expensive, but Glock handguns have, or at least used to. I don't know if they still do. I haven't. Mine was from the '90s, but the current generation has it. But it's still, in there.
it's a cool concept of the decay and how it's going, and it's not to get too dorky on it, but like it's fundamentally different. I mean, that's how solar panels work. It's just they're tuned for the specific like energy band of sunlight, but if you're tuning that similar type of circuit to an alpha particle or a beta particle, I mean, I think those carry a lot more energy. One of them is just a neutron, I think, that just gets shot off. If you can harness that, I mean, and get some efficiency out of it, it's just cool. It's cool to see people, being creative and trying to figure that stuff out.
Yeah. So any of you own some raw land and you do a geological study and find some tritium on there, you're going to be like the
You're gonna be
Beverly
doing okay.
Hillbillies.
You're gonna
You're going to
give us
be.
a call. Give us a call if you find that. We'll help you out.
When we talk about rare earth, wow, 44 pounds on the whole planet. Man, that's some rare earth. Although you're probably not a good idea to go mine it yourself.
Yeah, probably don't want to handle that.
Anyways, nuclear power plants generate about 20% of the electricity in the United States to produce minimal greenhouse gas emissions. They also create radioactive waste, which poses serious disposal challenges. Converting this into usable energy could provide a new avenue for sustainability. I mean, I wonder how much of this really could be put into these batteries.
I don't know.
I mean, and I wonder, it's like, is it too expensive then for it to be used in like energy battery farms? I'm suspecting that's the issue, where it only makes sense in deep space where money's no object, right?
Yeah, it can radiate as much as it wants.
Yeah, and nobody cares about the cost of it. All right, let's move on to something more interesting than talking about nuclear waste. We're going to talk about Tesla's market cap on Tuesday dropped 8% to bring it 8% in one day. Made it drop below $1 trillion for the first time in a while. So it's still higher than it was when Trump got elected, but it is at the lowest it's been
Since then.
this year. Yeah, it's dropped 25% in value this year, while the NASDAQ is down 1.5% so far this year. So it's not done too well. I mean, there's a lot of things going on. In January, year after year versus 2024, Tesla sales in Europe were down 45%. So Musk is getting a lot of pushback.
I think that's got to be a product too of just more models out there and the rest of the industry catching up.
Yeah, they really haven't had anything new in a while. And, I just wonder, I was kidding Bill that maybe that's because all the US aid money got cut off. And that's where all of the Tesla sales were coming from, was people who were on the graft.
Buying over there. I think it's tough to disassociate the brand from the person. And
yes,
that's got to be a piece of it right now. But I think over time, if things continue the way they are, that's going to rebound a little bit. And you are going to be able to disassociate just even a little bit the brand from the person and say, hey, this is the tried and true one. They've been out there for a long time. They are putting out quality vehicles. They're putting out affordable vehicles in those range and luxury ones. I think over time that's going to recover a little bit, where you can say, yeah, I don't agree with politics, whatever it is, but as a standalone, durable good, it's a quality product.
I know I like Elon more than you guys do, but I think Elon should bring the original founders of Tesla back and put them back in charge. Make them CEO. Take some of that pressure off. That he's got enough going on. It's not like even if he remained as chairman, still not going to have his head in there. And then maybe that would satisfy people. And maybe they'd also come up with some fresh style ideas. It's hard not to recognize that a Tesla is coming down the road from a distance.
Yeah, it's unique.
I mean, even at night, if there's a Cybertruck coming, you can tell it's a Cybertruck coming, from a long distance on the freeway coming the other way, because they have distinctive front end lighting.
Isn't that fun? Like Rivian too, where it's like, hey, it's very unique headlights.
The F-150 Lightning does as well.
Yeah.
And also the Hummer EV has some unique lighting as well. Yeah, you can't. In fact, it's not always easy to tell a F-150 Lightning and the Cybertruck apart, just from lighting. until they get up closer. But that's the closest one. And like I said, the other, but they all kind of have a unique.
Yeah.
They've done an amazing, and that mystifies me. I'm not an artsy creative person. I'm always mystified they keep making cars that don't look the same.
Yeah. Slightly
Although,
different, slightly curves and different, and still, I'm sure, engineered, and designed and efficient and all of those, but they look unique.
so I'm going to move on from this Tesla to this funny article that's titled "Want to Ditch Your Crappy Tesla for a Much Cooler EV? You can lease a Polestar 3 for up to $20,000 off." Now, I think that's really, that's obviously catered to people who are hating on
You
Elon
know
right
what?
now.
Seize the moment, Polestar. Like, come
You're right.
on.
I mean, yeah, well, this isn't their title,
Mm.
but obviously it's somebody who's hating on Elon. But you look at this, I mean, you look at the wheels, look at the vehicle, and your first thought is like, that's either a Hyundai or a Kia.
I was gonna say Hyundai. That looks a lot like the
Okay,
Ion.
because the wheels look a lot like Hyundai wheels,
Mhm.
and the styling could be anywhere between an EV6 or the Ionic,
Mhm.
either one. And it's an awfully similar looking vehicle. But even, you could even, if you try to compare that to a Mustang Mach-E,
Yeah, I
it's
can see
got
that. I
kind of
can
the
see
same
the
styling. I mean,
connection there. Yeah.
yeah. But so the deal is now Polestar is part of Volvo, which is part of Geely. Now, Geely is technically a Chinese company that owns the Swedish brand. Okay, they own Volvo, which has dealerships, and Polestar, I think is I think is a direct sale. But anyways, if a Tesla owner switches, they get $20,000 off. If you don't have a Tesla, it's a $15,000 deal. But there's an extra 5,000 for
Just for
people trading
Tesla.
in a Tesla. Yeah, yeah. So they have an MSRP for the single motor of 68,900. So it's
Ooh.
$69,000. And that's why you don't see a lot of them. I
I was
mean,
gonna
they're
say,
not cheap.
I did not know they were in that price range. I thought they were lower. But
Yeah, they're up there in the upper tier. But of course, a lot of people think that all the Model Ys cost that much, and you can get a Model Y that's that expensive, but you're basically looking like a performance
mm,
model. But the monthly payments $599 a month for 27 months. That's a lease. 5,600 due at signing for a dual motor. You can still get it for the $599 per month, even though the car has a almost $6,000 higher price point. Let's see. It's only valid till the end of the month, so you only got 2 more
yeah,
days.
a couple of days.
Yeah. So if you want to get rid of your Tesla, you got to do it quick. Um, But these guys at Jalopnik are saying, even without the extra incentive, be quick to recommend the Polestar 3 for anybody looking for a new EV, especially in its size and price class. It's size similar to a Porsche Cayenne, similar sporty character, and rides in the same platform as the Volvo EX90.
Oh, okay.
Let me see. The base model has 300 horsepower. The dual motor goes to 489 horsepower and 0 to 60 in 4.8. Let's see. 315-mile range on the dual. Then they have a
Well, they're
performance.
comparing it to a Porsche Cayenne, but like I don't think it looks like that. I think that's maybe why I was confused on the price. Just does not have that luxury look from the outside, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, that doesn't scream Porsche quality, does it?
Mhm.
No, I get it. And a lot of with Porsche, it's the styling, but Porsches also have some distinct styling. The only other vehicle I think that's kind of similar, the Tesla Model S look, if you could probably trick somebody and tell them it was a Porsche and they'd probably think it was,
Yeah,
because it kind of has that look, because the
it has.
S is a little more distinctive car look, but it's unique. You can
Hmm.
still tell it's a Tesla, but it
Just a
looks enough
little
like a couple
curvy,
of Porsches to be.
couple of extra curves in there, and yeah, it's a sharp looking vehicle, but
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things. There's so many people try to compete in that upper tier. I mean, for that same price point, you could get a Model X.
yeah.
And I think I'd rather have a Model X than a Polestar. But I realize, but I'm not an Elon hater, right? So,
Right,
um,
and that's where it's can you separate the quality of the car and understand like they have a track record, like they have
yeah,
been through iterations, they've made improvements, they have a national charging network. All of these things that are set up. It's just it would be hard for me personally to spend that much money on an untested brand
I
or
have
new brand.
I have a lot of when I'm at I play tennis all the time, and when I'm at a club, I'll have random people that come up to me and ask me what I recommend,
Mhm.
and I don't even realize they watch us. Okay, but
Yeah,
they see the show, and so they'll ask, and like one guy was, what do you think would be the thing to go? I go, well, if you got a and somebody just had a kid, and like if you got a Model Y, you'd certainly not be disappointed, and
mhm.
I go, it's because I really think of Tesla like IBM.
Yeah,
Nobody ever, there's an old expression, people pay extra because nobody ever got fired
for
for
buying.
buying IBM. Okay. And Tesla is the same way. All the things people complain about in the EV space, Musk kind of figured out 10 years ago and went out and raised money and put all that together. And so now you got this amazing supercharger network and the technology on the cars and all of this, despite all these people saying that, Musk never innovated anything or all that. It's like, he sure executed.
Yeah.
Okay. So people don't realize how important that piece is. Just because you got a great idea doesn't mean anything if you
And that's
can't execute it.
I've said it many times on here, but there's innovation with a capital I and a lowercase I. Yeah, you innovated with a lowercase I. You just made
Yeah.
improvements, got better, learned from your mistakes. Okay, this worked, this didn't work. Well, let's implement it with the next model and brand and it's just it's that continual, and that's where I go. Like, there's there's a track record. As a person, no, not my favorite right now, but like as a brand, like you've been around a long time. You have gone through these iterations. Not all, but the bugs have been worked out. You've figured these things out. You have a support network. You have it all. That's why it's hard to not go against that brand, or to go against that brand, I should say, as a vehicle. Does pretty well. Does pretty
Yeah.
well. Has done
But
well for years.
yeah, but I've had people, like, and it goes, oh, that's great because I did just buy a Model Y, and
Oh,
I'm
good.
just like, well, you already decided, you didn't need my opinion. But I've had others, and we've discussed, Rivians and different things. It really just depends on who they are and if they qualify for the tax credits. And some of them don't, because of their occupations, they won't qualify for the tax credits and different things like that.
I always
But
tell people just do your research. I mean, and it helps, and I guess that's part of their research is asking. But it's like with any other car, does it fit your needs? Like how many miles do you go a day? Wow, how big of this tank do you need? The super big one for the extra 10,000? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe that's not part of what you want to do. I would say yes. I mean, for kind of a per unit increase in capacity on that battery, like, yeah, go get something big, buy the extended one. But I think Tesla's a good recommendation. I'm excited about the new Volvo, the EX30, to kind of see how that fits into the equation and what that looks like. But the Prologue looked great. I
oh
think
yeah,
I've heard nothing but good things about that. I just saw one the other day here in town. It's like, ooh, that's sharp.
so I've seen two Volkswagen ID buzzes, the bus.
Oh, really? I haven't
Yeah,
seen
I've
any yet.
seen a blue one and an orange one.
Oh, nice.
And um the orange one, it was some girl driving. She looks so happy
Just
driving down the road.
cruising.
Just
Oh,
yeah. It's like I don't know if she realizes people are admiring it or not, but it's so cool to see that. I mean, it sure looks like a throwback to the 60s,
mhm.
and but they look great. I mean, if somebody was going to drive a minivan right now and you were looking for something, That would be the one to get.
That'd be
I
cool.
don't even.
Yeah.
They're not cheap though. I think they're like 60 plus.
I think they're
But
up there. They're up there.
yeah, but they look so cool. Anyways, let's go on and let's talk about Toyota. Now, this is a battery topic, okay? And you and I talk about this all the time. We were just talking about people can innovate. Maybe they can, they can't. If Toyota's really doing something, I'd like to think it's going somewhere. Okay, it's just like if Cattle is doing it, or BYD or Tesla. If the money's behind it, something can happen. And Toyota invested $14 billion into a battery manufacturing facility in the Carolinas. I think it's in North Carolina. I'm not 100% though which one. But anyways, and they got some money. There was probably a couple billion in incentives from the IRA and all that, but they stuck in an additional 14 billion of their own cash into that thing. Okay, so even though Toyota isn't doing a whole lot in the EV space because their busy fork sucks, and they got a couple more, and they came up with another one that was like the BRZ3 or something, and I'm like, what the heck?
Give it a name. Just give it.
Yeah, just give it a name. Yeah. You know what? But busy forks stood for something, and it was like battery zero something, and it was like, I don't know. There was reasoning for the name, and it just nobody cares. Nobody cares. Okay, Toyota, get better at naming vehicles. Okay, I mean, you got some cool ones like the Camry, the Supra, other than that, but you chose to name your EV the busy forks.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, what is that? Anyways, Toyota's another company that's had, what they have, that Scion brand. See, they should have just made all the EVs Scions.
Make that your EV brand.
Just like a lot of us have argued that GM needs to bring back Saturn as an EV only brand. And because now GM has probably in the US, they've got the biggest offerings out there. They've got all kinds of them now. And of course they have multiple brands, because you got some Cadillacs, some GMs, some Chevys, and all that. But they have multiple. Oh, and Hummer, and you've got a Hummer truck, you got a Hummer EV, you've got Cadillac has 3 different SUVs. So there's now an electric Escalade, and there's the Lyric, and there's another one that's like $250,000. Yeah. And then they've got a lot across that. But Toyota is working on a new battery that may extend EV range to 745 miles. Now, Musk has talked about this. It goes, why? It's like we can make them go that far now. Do you want to pay the extra $20,000-$30,000 for the car to have the battery be that large? Okay, but researchers in collaboration with Toyota announced a breakthrough. They've developed a new type of cathode material for all solid-state fluoride ion batteries, FIBs. Sounds like this is an April Fool's joke, right? FIBs.
Fluoride ion batteries.
Fluoride ion battery, or FIBs, that could double. I'm fibbing about this. I made up this whole thing. That could double the energy density of today's lithium ion batteries. That'd be a good use for fluoride. Now they're taking it out of the water, right? Currently, most EVs rely on lithium ion batteries, which have a capacity between 120 and 250. Oh my God, mAh/Gs,
hours per gallon or per gram or something. Milliamp hours.
I don't know, but anyways, the critical numbers are between 120 and 250. The fluoride ion battery, the FIB, based on a copper nitride, delivers a whopping 550. So you're essentially going to somewhere between 2 and 4x the capacity for the size. So that's a good thing. More than twice the energy storage per unit of weight. So they're estimating that it could go anywhere from 372 to 745 miles. The key innovation lies in how fluoride ions move through the battery. researchers at Kyoto University discovered that the copper nitride reacts with nitrogen and fluoride ions to extract 3 electrons per nitrogen atom. This process gives the battery much higher energy density and a potentially longer lifespan compared to traditional lithium-ion technology. Well, they're already coming out with lithium-ion batteries they're saying are going to last for 1,000,000 miles.
I think they've been finding that, right? I mean, as people have had vehicles for longer, batteries are lasting longer than they thought they were. Or have actually extended a little bit. I mean, the Toyota announcement, like, it's just like cool, like, great. I'm glad there's technology. Hey, if it fits, it's a relatively similar cost and doesn't add weight. Great, that's a good thing. But on the same hand, it's one, like, commercialize it, make that a product. Well, with Toyota, maybe there's a chance, they've got some cash behind it. But on the other hand, I mean, are you going to drive 700 miles in a row without wanting to take a 30-minute break to stretch your legs or do something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, that one
without not being able to charge it for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. I don't know.
Well, so we already know that one of the reasons that lithium batteries are going down in prices because lithium isn't scarce.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, despite people thinking that lithium is scarce and that we buy it all from the Chinese, which isn't even close to being true. It's just they're the main developers of battery technology.
They build,
they have the battery factories. It's not that they have the lithium, but they do have lithium,
mm-hmm.
and it's just like the U.S. does. But just like Oasis is saying, Toyota's been promising EV batteries for 25 years. Yeah, but they've built facilities. They've invested heavy money into it. So, and the Busy Forks, who knows why they came out with such a. Sometimes I've sworn that the car manufacturers have made certain EVs just to say they did it, and they've intentionally made them worse, both worse looking and worse overall than their gas cars. I don't know if there's something deliberate about that. I mean, Tesla was really the first company to really just say, hey, we're just going to make excellent EVs and we're not going to make any gas cars, and so they decided to say, hey, we're going to make cars and make everybody else's cars, look out of style or out of date. And they did that for a bit.
I don't want a space capsule. I want a car that looks like a car that just happens to be powered by batteries.
Yeah, I get it. Well, the Y and the X look a little off. The 3 and the S don't look so strange to me. Now, the Cybertruck, it's a whole different ballgame.
Cybertruck's very different. Very different. But even the Y, it's a little bubbly, in the back, but it's still it's unique, it's different, I don't know. I don't have an issue with it. I mean, it's not way out of left field. It's not the Cybertruck, it's not what was the BMW, the i5 or something, whatever it was that looked like a Tylenol, driving down the road.
Like, the i3.
i3, that's what, just like why? Like, why would you do that? But
well, I've told you about my friend that has one, and he drives all over the country in the damn thing.
Really?
Yeah, and
I'm sure it's a nice car. I'm sure that hopefully it's got good performance and it's comfortable and everything. But on the outside, it's just.
I think he spends about half of his trips charging because it doesn't charge quickly, and he doesn't have the ability to fast charge it anymore. He was saying that something about its ability to accept fast charge no longer works. But he's had it for a long time, and I can only imagine what kind of miles. I bet he has 200,000 plus miles on it. Yeah, so he's driven it to death. But the thing is, I wonder if these things are going to be economically viable. So that's one of the issues that comes up too, because if you've got a lithium ion battery that will go 300 miles and the manufacturer's buying it for like $3,000, but this is, $15,000, because we look at, what was it? So batteries 10 years ago for the size for a 100 kilowatt hour battery was probably 60,000 plus. Okay. And now they're like 6,000. Okay. They've gone down by 90% in the past 10 years. So it's just really hard to fathom, because you still see people, it costs $50,000 to replace the battery. It's like,
not
Man,
anymore.
yeah, you're
No.
living in the last decade,
And
and
that was all on purpose. I mean, that was government subsidies, that was research funding, that was we need to make that's the limitation. We need to make batteries more efficient and cheaper, and they did it. I mean, they did a great job with it. All the different companies.
yeah, it's funny. This article says while its incoming fully electric vehicle might not have a 745-mile range, if this battery research is successful, future EVs could outperform gas cars in range, safety, and convenience. Well, they already outperform in safety and convenience. It's just
It's
range isn't the
range.
same.
And how are you? I mean, yeah, that's pretty subjective. How you want to look at that?
Yeah. Um, so I thought that was kind of
Good
kind of
Toyota. Like
funny.
it, jump in the pool, Toyota. Everybody's been waiting for you.
All right. So Tesla's vice president of engineering hinted that the Model S and X would be getting some new looks later this year. So I'm wondering how much they might refresh them because
When's the
they,
last time they did a body update on any of the? I mean, is it original or just little tweaks? I mean, I don't know.
the thing is, I've seen, so the X first ones came out, I think, in 2017.
Mhm.
And I've seen some of the newer ones look slightly, they've had slightly different looks, but it's really minor. Most of it's had to do with like this rear spoiler than anything
Mhm.
else. And maybe there's been some that were made with the spoiler and some without. You know how you tell a Y and an X apart?
It's the doors, right?
Yeah, the door handles, the
Yeah.
door handle looking. So otherwise you can't even tell different now. An S is obviously different
Yeah.
looking
S
than a
S
Model
S is a
3.
sharp looking vehicle. I mean, that's a nice looking car.
Yeah. But the Oscar did their last updates in 2021, and the 3 and the Y received some upgrades in 2024 and 2025. But even still, their upgrades aren't big changes in
No, I
the
mean
looks of the
it's
car. They're
tweaks, just little
small
tweaks.
changes. Yeah. So um, the upgrade a couple of years ago was bigger than most people thought in terms of architecture and structure. And the car got a lot better, but we'll give it some love later this year. Make sure it gets a little bit of the stuff we've been putting in the 3 and the Y. And I think a lot of it is they're not really changing so much the outside look as much as they may be changing things on how they're built.
Yeah, it could be too. I mean, and so many of those vehicles too. It's technology. I mean, it's updated features inside, bigger screen, better interface. I mean, that's just as important in those vehicles as the outside look.
Let's see. The sales of the S and the X haven't exactly been great. So the S, the X, and the Cybertruck combined made up less than 5% of Tesla's overall deliveries last year, with only 85,000 total between the three being delivered to customers. And but that's still the previous year was only 68,000 versus 85. So it
Mhm.
still went up, but it's just um not a real big part of the business. So it's funny because you think about it, the S was the first one.
Mhm.
There was a Roadster, but really the S was the first real production one, came out in about 2012. Then the X came along around 2017, and the Model 3 hit though the following year. So the Model 3 hit in 2018. And if you go looking like at used Teslas for sale, you can find lots of 2018
Of
Model
those
3s.
vintage.
Those original
And
ones.
it's
Yeah.
just the share of Tesla though in those luxury. I mean, it's also just indicative of shifting market and shifting market strategy. And like, holy cow, we hit a sweet spot. We have the number one selling car in the world. Like, it's hard
Yeah.
to fault their strategy from that standpoint of, yeah, we started in kind of the higher end luxury, but turns out there's this huge untapped market that we just fell into. I shouldn't say just fell into, like entered into, and found a lot of success. So I don't know how to read that of like, oh yeah, your kind of your original ones and luxury and what used to be your flagship like are doing poorly, but it's everything else is doing great. I mean, it's hard to move away from that.
No, it is hard when, like you said, they got the best-selling car in the world. It's hard to just fathom, just going and changing. If it's working, why change it,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, they're going to do something to make up for the polarization Musk is creating by what he's doing politically. Um, but who knows how long that lasts? Like I said, Bill and I think he should bring the original folks back, and um, you know, because he's
Yeah.
obviously doing something somewhere else, and that would help take some of that pressure off of Tesla. So who knows where that will
Mhm.
go. All right, so I got this article about the donut lab and the electric motors. Now, part of the big advantages is when you have an electric motor is where they can be put. So it makes a lot of sense if you can put it as close to the wheel and even on the wheel itself if
Mhm.
possible. But one of the problems with that is you get all this grime, you get all the road grime and everything going to it. Okay, so um, this these motors that look like metal donuts. Let me show how these look. Yeah, they don't look tasty. So you won't salivate looking at these. But you know, these are a family of motors right here. So they look a lot like wheels, right? So they're
Mhm.
designed to be put in the wheel wells. Um, we call it an infinite motor because it will outlast the life of the vehicle when done right. It's about a manufacturing process more than anything to get the process in a repeatable way, like a bulletproof way. No magnets or coils or anything are flying in the wrong places. They would be very difficult to destroy in any way, any other way but crashing in a very traumatic way.
Have you? I haven't heard much about motor failure in vehicles. I mean, it seems batteries are number one. I mean, that's what
Mhm.
seems to need replacement first. But I have not. Doesn't seem to have been an issue that it's, hey, the actual electric motor, the windings, whatever it is, are running out before the rest of the vehicle's useful life ends. The body, everything else, the technology, whatever it is.
Well, there's that German guy who has the Tesla. He's driven we did a story on him a year ago where he'd
Mhm.
driven 1.2 million miles, and I'm sure he's probably closer to 1.5 million now. And it seems like every 300,000 miles, he's replacing a battery pack.
Yeah,
And, but it also seems like about every 200,000 miles or less, he's replacing a motor.
he is replacing motors.
But it's
Okay.
almost exclusively been the rear motor, and all the motors that go in are refurbished motors, and they go out again. It seems about every 150,000
Okay.
miles.
So maybe it is an issue. I
But
wasn't
it's
aware of
but
it.
it's really specific because the front ones, while he has replaced them, I think he's replaced each of the front motors like once, and the
Mhm.
rear motor though it keeps being over and
Keeps
over and over again. So
periodic.
there's known issues with I think the 2012 to 2014 motors.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
so there was something
So there
there,
is
but
potentially something
you
out there.
know the newer ones don't have that issue.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where hey, we figured it out. We'll stop making the crappy one.
Yeah, yeah. Or
And
it's, just you got to imagine a slight imbalance or slight issue, imbalance with a powertrain or something. Yeah, over 200,000 miles, like that adds up and accumulates if it's just a little bit off. So yeah, hopefully that got squared up.
yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for today. And we've had a good crowd watching today, and we really appreciate it. And Mike and I will be back on Wednesday next week. I'll be back
Okay.
with Bill tomorrow. Otherwise, folks, everyone have a great day.